Coach Strong, he reminds me a lot like my dad, him being just big on values and discipline, stuff like that.
Coach Strong's a cool, genuine guy. First time I saw him, I was just like surprised. He came to my school, shook my hand. He sets really high goals for the team that we can definitely achieve.
The number one thing that he told me whenever I first got here was, you're gonna graduate. That's the number one thing. I need a degree, and that will get me through the rest of my life.
He sends you out here not to be a better football player, to be a better man. He's gonna prepare you for the future.
You could tell when he's being genuine because you could just tell by the way he talks. He has a lot of passion in what he's saying.
Someone has a lot of passion for the game and for the players.
I did it for you, Coach! We did it for you, baby! We did it for you, baby!
Coach Strong is a family man. We built a relationship over these last couple of years. That's the man I want to play for.
See, I throw the hook away.
Nice. He's hitting the dab, adding the hook into it. You got one for us right here, Coach?
I throw the hook.
There we
go.
There it is.
Let's put it with it.
There we go.
I gotta put my own spike.
I like it, and you did that, and it obviously worked. We've got a closing job of Mo Rivera-type proportions for you in this Texas program. I mean, to look at 9 commits that ended up signing from Tuesday to Wednesday, National Signing Day, 7 of those in the ESPN 300. What led into having so much late activity with guys still on the board for this recruiting class?
You know what happened is that we researched it the whole time. So these guys, it's not that they just popped up, because this is work that had been put in for a year. And our coaches, even though we were shorthanded, you look at the job that Jeff Traylor, with BJ, with Vance, with Chris Vaughn, even with Brick in Louisiana, and with Jay Norvell. Like Matt and Sterling, they had a chance. They didn't have to get really involved, but they would go on us with the different visits. But it's the work that they put into it. Then you built a relationship. And I told our recruits at the time, I said, listen, I don't need a commitment right now. I just want you to know that you're going to come to the University of Texas. If you tell me that, then I'm fine with it. I don't need you to commit, because it was just so much just negativity out there, and I didn't want them to have to just hear it over and over again, because once you make that commitment, then you know exactly who to attack. And so I didn't want that problem.
That's a good point.
So I said to him, I said, look, don't say anything. Just tell me, are you coming? Yes, Coach, I'm coming. Okay, I'm good. So we'll just wait till signing day, and we'll get it to signing day, and then at that time you can go up and make your announcement.
Coach, I really love this change in philosophy, that waiting to the end to make sure guys mature. But what has changed about your recruiting philosophy since arriving at the University of Texas?
Really nothing has. I know when Coach was here, he did a great job of getting the early commitments, and you look at the success, there was a success behind it. And I just now, there's just student athletes are different. Even they're so different than recruits, because I was reading something where it said just this past, few weeks, 380 guys had decommitted from their previous commitment. So now you're looking at 380 guys, and you're saying, okay, it's more of, and I tell them, it's more of a reservation, because one thing about a reservation, you can always cancel it. It's 6 o'clock, you can always cancel a reservation. And with the way the recruiting process says, you're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds, and it's the pressure that they're under, and they're trying to make a decision, and every coach has the same sell, and everybody's trying to convince them. And this is the University of Texas at the end of the day, and that's why we're able to sell it the way we sell.
At the end of the season, the season's over, and obviously it didn't go like you wanted to. What do you, as the head coach and as a staff, how do y'all move forward, and do you circle signing day, because that's the next big event? What was y'all's focus, and what was your attitude from the end of the season to today?
Well, we had to have a plan of attack, and the plan was, how are we going to convince these players that this is the best school for them? And then you start talking to them about playing time. You talk about, hey, we played this number of freshmen, and the reason why we played this number of freshmen, now we have depth problems. And now if you come in, if you're good enough, you can beat them out. If you can't, then you know that you have a position and you're going to have a chance to go compete. And if you look at it now, they all want to play. It's what it is. They get in. If you can somehow convince them that they have a chance to either start or play, then you have a chance to go get them. So when we sat down, when the season ended, we had a lot of time. I mean, I don't think I've ever had this much time. It was like a month. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? And then, you hit that stretch where you couldn't go out. And so now you're just kind of just sitting around. And I said, I need to get out of this house. I need to go do something, get out of this office. And then when recruiting started back up, The first chance that we had to go out, then I went out and just saw as many as I possibly could because we had a weekend coming up. And then we had a big weekend. We had a weekend where we had 19 recruits in, and that was a really big weekend for us. And I think that we on official visits, I think 32 players visited this campus, and we signed 24 of them,
wow.
which is a good number.
Well, you gave a lot of credit, deservedly so, to your staff here at the University of Texas, but also I know some of your players, Malik Jefferson, Charles Omanehu, and then Deshaun Elliott, they're taking a lot of pride in their role, also landing this recruiting class. What are they able to provide in recruiting that a coach cannot, just from who they are in their position as a student athlete?
Well, when we come down with the players, it's all about entertainment for them. And now when you bring a young man in, a lot of times the recruits, they really don't want to talk to you because we've had numerous conversations with them, either on the phone, you go visit the school, you have a chance to see them. So when they get around the players, they really want to know, hey, is he really the way he is? How is he? How's this coach really coach you? And then they have a chance to take them out. They get a chance to meet other teammates. But our players did an unbelievable job. I don't think I've ever seen a place where our players are just so involved with recruiting like it was. And even today, back there, there was just groups of them just in both the offensive and defensive room looking at them just screaming and yelling. But, Malik wants all the credit. He said he's 3 for 3. But I told him he wasn't because I said Kyle Porter was not his, but he want to claim it was his. Omanehu, he wants all the credit. He's going to say, well, I had this guy. And Elliott says he has this guy. But then you look at the other players, and, like Puna did a great job. We had players that they were asking, could they host guys? In which that usually does.
Awesome.
Usually you're trying to run them down. Hey, you have a recruit this weekend. Well, Coach, I got to go here. I got to go here. And it was more, okay, what's his name? Who is he? What do I need to sell him on? What do we need to talk about? And they did a great job because I think that they understand that in order for us to take the program and get it to the level we need to get it at, they're going to have to work at it, and they need someone to come along with them.
And they all said that they want to be part of the solution to help turn it around. Now, walking the walk by working the phones and trying to get those guys here. And that big board looking mighty fine at this point in time because 24 names in all up on that big board to complete this recruiting class of 2016 for the Texas Longhorns. When we return with Coach Strong, we'll break down the offense and defense.
When I think of Texas football, the first thing that comes to mind is just a great tradition and all. Got a lot of great players coming in and coming out of Texas. Michael Huff, Quinn Jammer.
Whenever I was little, I was watching the national championship game with Texas and USC when Vince Young ran that touchdown.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
Everybody knows it, but it's definitely a memory I'll live with forever.
When I was in PE football, I was always a Longhorn, so we was just always been around that hook-em type family deal.
The greatest program in America.
Fan base is crazy and definitely, everybody's repping Texas Longhorns everywhere.
Texas football, pride, tradition, where I wanted to go my whole life.
A recruiting class that would make Coach Royal proud, built around the defense, 7 defensive signees. And the ESPN 300, 6 of them landed on the final day, including Jeffrey McCulloch, the number 2 outside linebacker prospect in the class of 2016, Brandon Jones, the number 2 safety prospect, and the cherry on top of everything, Jordan Elliott, the final piece to this puzzle, ranked as the number 12 defensive tackle in the ESPN 300 rankings. We're now back with a head coach that made it all happen, Charlie Strong. Coach, I know big importance with this class, the line of scrimmage, bulking up on the O-line and D-line. Since we're talking defensive line, how do you feel like this class addressed some of those needs along the defensive line?
Well, if you look at it and I think about, like, even outside, like you take a guy like Fitzgerald, you take a guy like Roach, those guys are 2 outside guys, and they're guys that can control the line of scrimmage and is great at the point. And then you look at inside, you have to win inside. Mm-hmm. When you talk about Daniels, you talk about Elliott, you talk about Giles, you talk about big body guys. And that's what you want those big body guys that are athletic, and they can shed a block and they can get to the quarterback.
When you look at the next level with the linebackers, you had Eric Fowler, who's a local guy, McCulloch, the number 2 outside linebacker in the country. Talk to me about the linebackers and the vision you have at that position for these guys and then the rest of the guys that are already on campus.
Well, we already have a really good set here on campus, and so it was important. Like a McCullough is a guy that can rush the passer off the edge, and then he can drop into coverage. A guy that can get downhill at the point of attack. And then you look at Fowler. You know, he is so athletic. He's a guy that can play in a lot of different positions because we'll line up in the 4-2, we'll line up in the 3-4, we'll just move guys all over. And he's a guy that you're going to have to find him because you can put him inside, you can put him outside, but a big guy that can win at the line of scrimmage. And you look at him and McCullough, those are 2 guys that we really needed. And even with Roach is another guy that kind of fits that mode. It's going to be interesting to watch.
With some veterans at the starting safety spots as it stands with Haynes and obviously Jason Hall, but you bring in a player that's very talented. It was exciting to watch y'all's reaction when Brandon Jones actually verbally committed to the university. But what does a young man like that, how do you see him fitting into the secondary?
He is so talented. And the thing you love about him, he can run, he'll hit you, he's very physical at the point of attack. And the thing I told BJ, Brandon Jones, I said, you're a guy, you can play safety, you can play down in our nickel position. We're gonna find somewhere for you to play. So we as a coach, we're gonna have to do it. You know, you look at him, he can play running back, but I'm not gonna put him on offense.
He's gonna ask.
He's gonna ask. He's a defensive player.
How much do y'all value that position versatility? You look at a lot of those defensive linemen, they look like they could play the 5 technique and the nose. The linebackers can line up everywhere, getting guys in the secondary that can play the nickel and safety and out wide. How much do y'all value that, and what does that do for a defense when you have guys that you can move around?
Well, it's all about just how versatile and just where you can place him. Like you take a guy like Cuffey. He's tall enough, he's rangy enough where you can put him at corner, and then you can also put him at the back end as safety. Now, Chris Brown's a guy who can line up at the nickel position because of his size, and then he can play outside at the corner position. And then you talk about BJ as a guy that he can line up as safety, he can line up at the nickel, he can even line up at corner if you really need him there at that position. But and even like a big guy like Daniels is a guy who can play the edge for you. Fitzgerald can play the edge for you. And then you look at like Giles, those guys are inside. Elliot's a big guy that can play the edge. And what we play, we play our 3-4, and we ask guys to play a stuff technique, they're going to have to play the edge. But you're looking at a guy, and that's what, whenever you look at a lineman, even with a skill guy, you always say, listen, we don't want them just to line and say, hey, you are this position. No. You got to be very flexible, and you got to play up and down that line of scrimmage.
Well, Coach, you are known for your ability to evaluate talent and then develop that talent. After you signed Andrew Fitzgerald, you told me he could be maybe your dark horse in this class. He's a 3-star guy. I know you don't get into the recruiting rankings, but for people at home that do, tell us what you see. When you turn on his tape, you see him in person that makes you believe, regardless of what all the recruiting experts say, this can be a guy for me.
If you turn on his tape, first thing you're going to say is, look how hard he plays. That's it. Once you say that about a guy, you don't need to say anything else. Because if he plays hard, talent won't matter because he's going to overcome his talent because he plays so hard. And I think that he was like the defensive player of the year up there in the Fort Worth area. But he's unbelievable, just his work ethic, and he just goes. He has one speed, and he just goes hard, and you want that out of a defensive lineman because a lot of times with defensive linemen, some of them will take a play off. He doesn't take plays off, and that's it. And that's why I said to you, I said he will be the dark horse of this group because he's gonna know one speed, and he's going to go like that all the time.
And especially with that tempo in the Big 12, you cannot take a play off if you're playing defense when it comes to Big 12 football. Speaking of that tempo, the offense getting ready to pick it up, and they feel like they got a quarterback that can take them there. We're taking offense and talking the offensive side of the ball when we return.